Well, hello, everyone. Happy what day is it? Thursday. Thursday. I was like, I always know my Thursdays because my Thursdays are days when I'm honestly like I don't have a lot going on in terms of meetings and stuff like that. But I gotta say, like I really did have a brain fart just then. I was like, what the fuck day is it today? I don't even know what day it is today. It is in fact Thursday. Welcome to the show. Congratulations. Oh no, I'm having trouble streaming to Facebook. Oh well, we'll just have to delete that on Facebook. We don't have to stream to Facebook today. Guys, today is going to be a little bit more of a relaxed day. We are doing a Nitwits stream today, which I'm pretty excited about because I haven't done Nitwits in a little bit. Nitwits is basically when I want to watch other people's content and I kind of think to myself, I can do this with friends. I can either do it by myself and knit, or I can do it with friends and knit. And it's gonna be one of those two things. Why does my hat look so bunched? This is my special Knitwits hat. Well, I have two any hat that I actually do knit, I do wear. And this is actually a hat that I knitted. This is the bubble hat from Stephen West. Almost all my knitting is West knits. This one's a little bit too big for me, but it still works when I'm wearing headphones. Anyway, so Knitwits is a stream where I knit and I watch other people's content, and I can sometimes be a snarky little bitch. I own it. Sometimes we just have to embrace who we are. But I'm not always a snarky bitch. Only sometimes am I a snarky bitch. And I show you my knitting and we talk about what's going on. And I have to tell you, the feud between the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder is everything. It's everything to me. I am so happy that Steven Crowder called the Daily Wire out. And even better, I love that he called them out directly. And everyone knew who he was talking about. And Steven Crowder didn't even need to say their name. Well, Naruto, I'm actually going to be really curious to see what Dave Rubin says. Is Dave Rubin going to shill for Ben Shapiro? My money is that Dave Rubin's going to shill for Ben Shapiro. That's my money. Now, as you guys know, I don't shill for anyone. I will tell you what I think about these situations. And it doesn't really matter if I like you or hate you. If I believe that the Daily Wire is in the right, I will tell you if I think the Daily Wire is in the right, even though I think they are epic establishment shills that deserve to get called out for their bullshit. But if I think that they're right, I will say that. If I think Steven Crowder is right, I'll say that too. And today, in order to help us work through the madness, we're calling in a ringer. We are calling in Nick Rekieta. Because I actually don't mind Nick Rekieta. I think Nick Rekieta is okay. I haven't watched a lot of him. But what I have watched, I've enjoyed, and I think that he's really smart and really insightful. And the thing that I like best about Nick Rekieta for this is Nick Rekieta is going to be able to explain the contract from a lawyerly perspective. Now, I have ideas about the contract, and things, and I have ideas. We'll just say that I will express my ideas as the show goes on. But I think Nick Rekieta is going to be able to give us some really good insight. If you have already watched this stream, don't bring any spoilers into my Nitwit stream. I haven't seen it yet. And I want to hear what he has to say, and I want to hear whose side he's on, and I want to hear his analysis. So this is how we're going to go about it. I thought about watching Jeremy Boeing's video. As you guys know, this thing was set off by Steven Crowder doing a video saying, you conservative big con giants are doing these bullshit things in your contracts and you need to stop. And everyone, of course, knew he was talking about the Daily Wire. Everyone knew it. And so the Daily Wire did possibly one of the stupidest things that you can do in a scenario like this. They made an hour-long video responding to Steven Crowder and talking about the contract that they offered him. The reason that I say that this was stupid is because if you are as big as the Daily Wire is, if you are as successful as the Daily Wire is, you don't make an hour-long response video if you didn't do anything wrong. What they should have done is adopt the strategy of the royal family, never complain, never explain. Because we all knew it was the Daily Wire, but we didn't know it was the Daily Wire. We all suspected, but we didn't know for sure. Not only did Jeremy Boeing confirm that it was the Daily Wire, but Jeremy Boeing spent an hour explaining himself. And there were some interesting things I've heard tell that Jeremy Boeing said in this video. There were also interesting things that he left out of this video. So I've heard from the quartering. Now, the quartering is not my favorite person in the world. I think that the quartering is a clickbait artist at absolute best. But, like I said, I give people credit where credit is due. If people say things that I think are correct, even if I personally dislike them, I will absolutely say I think they're correct. And in this case, I think that the quartering is absolutely correct. So, one of the things that apparently Jeremy Boeing talked about in his video, in his hour-long, totally not damage control response video that he did talking about the offer that they made to Steven Crowder, one of the things that he said is they offered Steven Crowder $50 million over 4 years. Now, listen, $50 million is a lot of money. Let's just be blunt. It's nothing to sneeze at. But the fact of the matter is this: Steven Crowder can make $50 million over 4 years on his own. And I don't actually think it would even be that hard for him. I mean, like, listen, I'm not saying it's a walk in the park. I'm not saying he's going to be able to roll out of bed and get $50 million, right? That's not what I'm saying. But it is going to be a whole lot easier for someone like Steven Crowder with his connections, with his fan base, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to make $50 million on his own over 4 years and retain complete creative control over everything than it is for like an average person. I'm not going to make, well, I shouldn't say I'm not going to do it. I like Steven Crowder is in a much better position than I am to say to make $50 million over 4 years. Crowder is in a much better position than probably everyone that will watch this stream to make $50 million over 4 years. And the reason I say I'm not going to do it is because you never want to say you're not going to make $50 million. Maybe I'm going to wake up tomorrow and decide I want to make $50 million and then I can go do it. So you never want to say you can't do something. But I will say that Steven Crowder is really well positioned for this right now. And so he doesn't actually need the Daily Wire to do this. And so for the people who are saying Steven Crowder is just being a big crybaby because, he was offered $50 million and why isn't he just taking it? He's being a big crybaby. What you're not taking into consideration, and I think that Jeremy hit the nail on the head with this one, is that the Daily Wire is not speaking to the core complaint that Steven Crowder had, which is that the Daily Wire is colluding with big tech in order to censor conservative voices. Steven Crowder's complaint was not about the size of the paycheck. Steven Crowder's complaint was that the Daily Wire was saying that they would financially penalize him if he got a strike on YouTube or if he was demonetized. And in doing so, they are directly colluding with big tech to incentivize conservative content creators to not say anything that would make big tech upset. And that severely limits the amount of things that they can say. And especially for someone like Steven Crowder, who does like to push the envelope, that just ain't going to work, man. And it's not about the money at all. It is about the principle. So many organizations have been fighting back against the big tech censorship, the big tech restrictions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, you have one of the biggest players in the game saying you have to abide by YouTube censorship policies or else we're going to penalize you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. That just doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem like a principled position. That doesn't seem like something I would expect someone who says they are against tech censorship to take. And as Jeremy says here, Crowder not once in his video did complain about the pay. The Daily Wire's reply was very calculated. And the reason, and Jeremy's right on with this one, The reason they leaked the $50 million number was to get everyone to focus on the $50 million. It's like a classic like diversion. It's like, look over here, $50 million. That's a lot of money. Look over here, look over here. Ignore the fact that we're colluding with big tech over here. No, no, no. Look over here, look over here. Look at $50 million. Just ignore the big tech collusion. Don't worry about that. $50 million. That's what they did. So I'm told. I haven't watched the video because I'm not going to sit down and watch an hour-long video of the Daily Wire explaining themselves, to be quite honest. I would rather watch Nick Rekieta's take on it, which is what we're going to do on this stream. And listen, guys, everyone is allowed to have an opinion here. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion. But just remember, I am invoking my rules of the chat. Don't be a dick and no whining. Do not insult me if I do not say the talking points that you want me to say. That's not going to work out well for you. And do not whine at me if I don't say the talking points that you want me to say. That is also not going to work out well for you when it comes to being part of my chat for the foreseeable future. Brian says that $10 million a year would also have to cover all of his production costs for the Daily Show, paying his employees. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Boom says they would also have to take ownership of Mug Club, which he started before he was even in the Blaze. That's right. I did hear about that. Like they would own everything, absolutely everything. And then Naruto says Boeing kept saying, "I'm offended by this." Well, he can be offended all he likes. His little fragile. I bet he was offended by the fact that Steven Crowder called his ass on the carpet because he made an hour-long response video. I'm sorry, like anyone who's saying that the Daily Wire is not doing blatant damage control, come on. Come on. Benjamin says Nick's analysis ran beyond the end of his YouTube show. Well, we're going to watch the one on the YouTube. I don't like if anyone else wants to send me a link that we should watch for Nick Rekieta, we're going to watch the one on the YouTube because that's the one I was given to watch. I don't know, Benjamin. I can't go and anyway, we're going to do the best we can. I do appreciate knowing that context though. All right, guys, before we dig into this, a couple of things. Now, I want to let you guys know that I do have to wrap up this stream by about 7:30 tonight because tonight I am doing the first in my Unwoke Your Work series of workshops. I'm really excited about this. I'm going through the process of putting all my corporate training content online. It is completely not woke at all. No effing politics. This is just based in psychology. This is just to help people to have resources to succeed in work, in life, that sort of thing. I'm really excited to put this content online and on demand. And the way I'm doing that is I'm doing these workshops live as part of my Unwoke Your Work series. And the first one we're doing is one that can really apply to everyone. It's about confidence building. It is about what you need to do no matter where you are right now, no matter how you feel about yourself right now, no matter if you even like maybe get stage fright and speaking in front of people, or if like doing something like YouTube would totally freak you out. I'm going to teach you to project confidence and to show up powerfully. I love doing this workshop. I love it. And if you can't attend at 8 p.m., guess what? It's going to be recorded, so you can watch the recording later. But this is going to be a two-part series of workshops. We're starting tonight with the presentation, which is going to be me talking for 60 to 90 minutes. And then next week, we are going to do a follow-up where we will be in a private, unrecorded Zoom call to do practical exercises in which it's going to be a lot more participatory, and you're going to get to apply the things you learned tonight in a conversation where you're actually applying them to your life and your circumstances and stuff like that. So there's two parts, 8 p.m. tonight and also 8 p.m. next week on Thursday. I will be recording tonight's so you can access it on demand. I will not record next on Thursday because that's like small group exercises and I want to protect the privacy of participants and stuff like that. But you still will be able to access all of the good stuff, all of the exercises, all of the tips and tricks, and work through them on your own. If you're not able to make it to the live show tonight, you can follow the link that I have pinned to the top of the chat. I will also pop it in right now. Bing! This is on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. And this is the first of many. I'm going to be doing these workshops once a month. You can head over to activelyunwoke.com/work. If you would like to check out the series, you can sign up for each of them individually, or you can sign up for them as a collective unit. And anyone who is supporting my work for $25 a month or more on either Locals or Patreon will get offered free access to all of the workshops. So free access. These are not all free. There are like a premium training experience. But if you are a monthly supporter of mine at $25 a month or more, then you can get in for free. And I have emailed everyone that qualifies for that on how to do that for the confidence building workshop. And you can go over and peruse and see. We're going to be doing mastering your psychological style next month. We're going to be doing advanced psychology. We're going to do leadership style, managing people, mindfulness in the workplace, being your own coach, escaping your toxic workplace, and my favorite all-time presentation, playing politics, the psychology of the human workplace. So you got a good batch of workshops to choose from. I'm really excited, and I'm definitely excited for 8 p.m. tonight when we will be kicking it off with Embrace It, a confidence building workshop. I think you guys are just going to love it, and I can't wait to see the participants at 8 p.m. tonight for that. All right, last thing, I got to show you my knitting, right? So I'm working on the Starflake shawl right now. This is actually the third Starflake shawl that I've made, so you can see it right there, what it actually looks like. I think that's, there are some other pictures in this. I guess we can go for this one. That's what it's going to look like. Now, mine is pretty similar to that, except that mine is red. And I love this pattern. This is one of my favorite patterns to knit. This is actually the third one of these that I've made. So I'm making one that's red and white. I wanted to do red and white for years. And part of it too is look at that red. This is a Ching fiber melted baby Surrey, and it's fuzzy. The red is fuzzy, and this one is a little bit just like a normal textured plied yarn. This is like West wool, and then this is Ching fibers, and I like the contrast of the fuzzy and like the normal yarn. But man, that red is just so beautiful. I knew I had to feature it in something, and I just started knitting the Starflake shawl the other day, and I was just like, this is just like I needed to take a break from my Mises Caucus shawl, which is like this close to being done. I just need to take a break and work on something else. And so that's what I'm working on. And I'm really excited. And I think it's coming out beautiful. And I was a little concerned, to be honest, that it was like, that it was going to look like a candy cane. And it does look like a candy cane. But I just love the red so much that I don't care that it looks like a candy cane. So that is what I'm going to be working on in today's show, guys. And so you'll be able to see me knitting. At some point, I'm going to get like a second camera so you can actually see me knitting like in like a knitting cam or something, but we don't have that today. All right, guys, let's kick it off and let's see what Nick Ricada had to say about Crowder versus the Daily Wire. And actually, you know what? I'm going to put a poll in the chat right now. I want to know which side you guys are on. Which side are you on? Daily Wire, Crowder, or not sure? Poll in the chat right now on YouTube. Let me know what side you're on. And hello to everyone watching on Odyssey, on Rockfin, on Rumble, on Gitter. Apparently not on Facebook because the stream's not working on Facebook. But hello to everyone that's watching on all the other platforms. And thank you for joining us. All right, let's get started.
Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm so sorry to be very, very late, extra gay tonight. My apologies. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Sorry about that. Woo! What's up, guys? Okay, so tonight is weird. Tonight is weird because tonight is just like last night in a way. I feel like it's a repeat. Hold on. There we go. I feel like it's a repeat because, we've got, we've got the same damn subjects. The exact same subjects, to be fair. We've got first this contract that Steven Crowder brought up yesterday. Steven Crowder's contract is now outed. It is outed by the Daily Wire as coming from the Daily Wire. And the Daily Wire has now done a, well, whoever Mr. Boring is, I think his last name is Boring. God, that's weird and unfortunate. Jeremy, is it Jeremy Boring? He has done a response video to the Steven Crowder video, presumably justifying what's in the terms of the agreement, right? Or the proposed agreement. So I figure we got to watch the response and we got to talk about that.
See, we're going to get to watch the response anyway.
If we agree, disagree, buy it, don't buy it, if it's logical. Hopefully we get some more context around the contract. And again, just like last night, I haven't actually watched the video. I know it's an hour long, which is 30 minutes longer than Crowder's. So that'll be a bit of a chore. I'm
never complain, never explain.
Over it more than pausing it so we get through it as much as possible. Because last night it took me quite a bit of time to get through Crowder's thing, but I might not have to expound as much. So we'll talk about that contract and what they have to say about it, and kind of weigh the two. I mean, you get to weigh them together and make up your own mind. I'll give you my opinion, of course. And no one should ever adopt my opinion as their own unless they definitely agree. And if you agree with everything I say, you're probably retarded, because I am.
So I really want to encourage everyone as we're watching this is to not think about this in terms of like, oh shit, Crowder could have made $50 million. Because that is exactly what the Daily Wire wants you to be thinking about as we're watching this. Like, he turned out $50 million. But again, you got to understand that someone in Crowder's position, he's in a very, very blessed position where money is not going to be his primary motivating factor. And you're going to find this a lot for people who either are wealthy already, or wealthy and like successful, or like, have experience being wealthy and successful. They know how to create wealth. Like, the creating of the wealth is not the problem. This is why Elon Musk has absolutely no problem losing $2 billion of net worth, right? Because $2 billion of net worth for Elon Musk is a drop in the bucket. Elon Musk prints money from the moment he wakes up in the morning until the moment he goes to sleep. So he doesn't worry about making money. Making money is not in his thought process. It is about principle. It is about what he wants to achieve in the world, and he knows there are many, 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 many different ways he can make money. So while I know that a lot of people might be like distracted by the $50 million, you really do have to understand that when you get to Steven Crowder's level, money is not your primary motivator, or it shouldn't be your primary motivator. Otherwise, you'll turn into Tim Pool, and really, that's just not good for anyone. And then we have a super chat coming in from Nick. Here is for John Morgan's Jingle on Knitting. Cheers. Oh, thank you, Nick. I appreciate that.
That's fine. That's a fine place to be. I've lived my life there, and so you could probably be okay with it too. Then am I expecting? God, I wish. No. No, my stomach is all just steak. After that, Town Hall has released part 2 of their investigation. If you saw the first,
we're not going to watch the Town Hall stuff. I don't know what that is.
It's kind of horrifying, and it's infuriating.
I don't know what that is, nor do I care. If someone wants to fill me in, that's fine.
So that's the subjects we've got tonight. Those 2 things should fill the entire show. We really don't have a lot of time in there for anything else. That's going to take all 3 hours, probably a little bit longer. The first full hour and probably some change will be here on YouTube. Again, Rumble will be hosting the remainder of the show after that.
Oh, that's what you were talking about, Benjamin.
An hour, 10 minutes, something like that. I'm not great at doing it at exactly an hour, and I don't want to be great at like, oh, it's mechanically an hour, we have to do it. I'll try and find a natural break or flow. So we'll do that. Tonight, Nick announces his new Daily Wire show. $50 million. $50 million fucking dollars. The funny thing is, we're going to talk about that 50 million figure and the figures around it as we get into it, because I think it's important to put in perspective what that actually is and what that means.
See, Nick is so smart. This is why we're watching Nick
and all of
Ricada.
that. So,
perspective, context,
we'll get into all of that as we go. I don't want to, I don't want to belittle the fact that it's $50 million, but the amount of money is going to be a different deal relative to your life experience and your current income. If you make $50, $100, $200,000 a year, $50 million over 4 years sounds like a shit ton of money. If you make $15 million a year, $50 million over 4 years isn't enough. And that's a big difference.
It looks like 64% of you are on Team Crowder.
We'll talk about all of this stuff through there. And then again, we're going to go to the
only
town hall
9% of you are on Team Daily Wire.
And for the town hall article, I recommend you bring liquor because it is fucking infuriating to know that this shit is going on.
I did hear about this.
To know that movements and organizations are complicit in it until they're forced out of it, that they deny this shit happens when it's happening in the fucking open. So that's that. Let's jump into this thing. I'm not going to do a long intro today. A week from yesterday, Kyle Rittenhouse interview, that will be on the 24th. That's the most important thing, is the Kyle Rittenhouse interview on the 24th. There's some more really good interviews coming up. And as I book those interviews, we'll be talking about it. I've got feelers out to Alan Dershowitz. We'll have a nice legal talk about constitutionality and the First Amendment. Hopefully that'll be something. I would love to talk to Norm Pattis. He had agreed to come on the show. We had to lock down a date, and then he got disciplined, and his license is suspended for 6 months. He's appealing that thing, but I don't want to have Norm Pattis on the show before his suspension is dealt with. And if that means waiting 6 months, Norm Pattis is Alex Jones's lawyer. If that means waiting 6 months for his license to be reinstated, I will patiently wait 6 months. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize his law license and the suspension and the appeal of that. And I would prefer, if his appeal is successful and he is able to regain his law license, then he's more free to talk about it. That would be the preferable option. But if I have to, I will wait the 6 months until he can talk about everything
Nick,
safely.
Please get into the video.
Those are two people I have spoken with that have they've tacitly agreed on the record to come on the show. And so I'm happy to do that. And I really think that'll be a good show. Right. Both of those will be.
So I'm doing brioche knitting
one
right
more
now,
thing to announce,
which is really
we
dangerous.
Finally started.
Because if I screw this up,
if you've been following my lawsuit, I know people have been following in the background.
Hard to fix.
There was a hiccup with my lawsuit, which was really fucking fun to deal with. In that I was served right before Christmas. Actually, I was served right before my birthday. And I have a birthday. My daughter has a birthday. We have Christmas, and we do Christmas like 4 times because we got 2 different families. All this shit that we do. Anyway, long story short, prior to the
all right, I'm gonna fast forward. I want
stupid game.
I don't
see them act like this was a genuine.
I'm sorry, Nick Ricada. I'm fast forwarding through your lawsuit talk.
That's all on this guy.
Okay.
There we go.
I got a workshop to give at 8 p.m.
Phones. And we'll get started.
Yes, it will be a shawl. Yeah.
Oh, and to Montegraph, who I know is watching this. You have a frivolous case. You always had a frivolous case, and you better fucking hope the court doesn't find it frivolous, buddy. But none of the statements I said are defamatory in any way. You're doing this purely for your own purposes that have nothing to do with a legitimate lawsuit. And you're a giant piece of shit. And I know you're watching. I know you're going to report that to your attorneys. Oh, and also your little gay stalker that you keep sending after me and people I know.
I don't know anything about this situation.
Fist himself, please. We just go ahead and do that. Your little Minnesota lapdog, the guy who likes to cum guzzle you or whatever. You just tell him to fist himself and to fuck off. And if he keeps trying to bother me, I will file a restraining order, and I'll get one since he's a convicted stalker, and I have every reason to believe he's a dangerous retard.
I have no fucking idea what Nick Ricade is talking about right now, but that was amazing. And people think I'm inappropriate on. I feel like I'm like the nicest person on YouTube compared to other people, and people think I'm controversial when I talk about things like this.
Okay, can you do that? And can you take your cock out of his mouth for 10 seconds? Can you do that too? God, you and your pathetic little posse can just eat shit for all I care. You fucking loser.
God damn it, Nick just got me demonetized.
Well, there, Drunkita, I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna sue you and you're gonna pay. Fuck off, loser. Oh, and if either of you two show up on my property, you'll have about 8 seconds to fucking leave, by the way. You won't get much warning. I will treat your presence anywhere near me as a fucking threat.
See, I feel like I said that to Carrie Smith one time, and I was reported to locals for, like, violence, and they tried to deplatform me for it. So I just want to say that I now feel completely justified to say that if Carrie Smith ever comes anywhere effing close to me, she's not going to like what happens. Not that I would ever inflict violence on anyone that didn't first attack me, because I believe in the non-aggression principle. But I'm just saying that when I said something like that on a live stream in locals, they tried to get my fucking community deplatformed over it. They failed because I didn't threaten anyone with violence. But I'm just saying, I now feel that was the one thing that I just felt like just a smidge, a tiny bit guilty about. Just like a smidgen, as my grandmother would say. And now seeing Nick Ricada basically do exactly the same thing on his channel and no one gives a fuck, I no longer feel bad. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it.
Fuck you.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.
Finally.
Let's see. Let's do this. Oh, I didn't start you yet. You'll start when I say so, Jeremy.
Well, of course Tim made it all about the money, because all Tim cares about is money. So of course Tim is going to project his own baggage.
Go.
Don't listen to Tim on this issue. Tim is biased. I don't even know what Tim said, and I'll still say he's like biased.
Okay, so this is Jeremy Boring. He is the co-CEO of the Daily Wire. Let's just get into this as fast as possible.
All right. Our friend Steven Crowder has launched a new initiative called Stop Big Con. And in the video announcing the launch of the project, he talked about leaving the blaze and all the different offers that he fielded from other conservative organizations and what he thought were the real problems with those offers. And that's led
really talked
a lot
about
of
one
people
offer
to speculate about whether or not the Daily Wire is one of the people who made him an offer. In particular,
we all knew you were. We all knew
that he put up on the screen and talked about at length. And the answer is yes, that offer did come from the Daily Wire.
Okay, so we asked this question yesterday. I'm not going to pause it too much, and I'm going to try and talk fast. Yes, it's confirmed now. This is the Daily Wire, straight from the co-CEO's mouth, that not only did they make an offer, but they made the particular offer that Steven Crowder was talking about. This is kind of the right move to come out and just own it, I think.
I disagree.
It was pretty clear that
well,
Crowder
not.
would produce the receipts and out the Daily Wire eventually if they tried to like weasel around it. So this is the right thing for them to do, although I think it's the wrong tack. I think they should say, you know what, we actually agree. We actually agree with the principle behind Stop Big Con. And you know what? We're taking his feedback under consideration. We have some disagreements about it, and there's some aspects of it, but let's honestly go through this contract. Now, maybe he says this, but he should say, you know what? We have this opportunity as a powerhouse in the conservative industry to be leaders in this, and we love to partner with Crowder on creating a better system, and we like his Stop Big Con movement and the idea that we're going to foster a community of creators in this space. I think that might have been the better PR move.
In general, I absolutely agree with Nick on that one. I think that that would have been a really amazing PR move. But the problem is that if that was what they were going to do, Jeremy Boeing could not have done a 50-minute video talking about the fucking contract. Because again, for those of you who joined and you didn't hear me say this earlier, the very fact that the Daily Wire made a 50-minute, 60-minute, hour-long response video to this shows that they're doing damage control. And if they had done what Nick just suggested in terms of saying, you know what, Crowder is bringing up some legitimate concerns, and we're going to take his feedback, and we like the general direction he's going in, and we're taking it to heart, and we're going to make improvements in our processes, that should have been like maybe a 10-15 minute video tops. I don't think, like, the fact that they walked through the entire contract for the parts that were convenient for them to walk through, because we don't actually know if they showed us everything, by the way. We don't know that. I mean, I guess maybe we'll find out in the course of this video, but we don't know what they didn't tell us. But if they were just going to say, you know what, Steven Crowder raised some good points, and we're taking the feedback and we agree with it in principle, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to execute it, that is a 10-15 minute video tops. It does not require going through each of the lines of the contract in order to be able to do it. And I do agree that that would have been a far better strategy than this. Okay, guys, please mount that like button for me. I appreciate it.
Than whatever he's about to say, but I don't even know what he's about to say. I just have a feeling it's not what I said right now. That's what I would have done. And again, you can still take issue and you can clarify things to try and do it, but owning the fact that and this is not limited to conservative media, okay? That media contracts in general, and a lot of contracts in general, start off predatory, especially when there's big money on one end and maybe a non-sophisticated party on the other. Now, in this case, you had Steven Crowder, who is a very sophisticated party. He's been negotiating contracts like this since 2009. That's a pretty fucking long time. But other creators are not. And so starting with a predatory premise in your contract from one of the big people in the movement, that is a problem. Like, that principle itself is a problem in conservative media, and we don't have to do business this way. This is the most important thing that you get in some of your classes in law school, particularly your legal drafting classes, is the fucking contract bullshit that we're all used to seeing. We go, well, that's just because some lawyer did this. You don't have to write contracts this way.
Yes.
Contracts don't have to
I love that he's saying this.
80-page monstrosities with different provisions for every time someone farts into a microphone, Ethan Ralph. They don't have to do that. The reason they do that is because they start with a predatory premise and force you to come in and negotiate shit away.
Yes.
Because they want to be able to have leverage over you. And they think by having a list of insane things in there that you'll come in and negotiate out, that will reduce the amounts of other places where you leverage, because your brain thinks, well, if I'm negotiating this and this and this, I probably can't negotiate as hard here.
He's right.
Here.
100%.
That's the psychological game that's being played, and it doesn't have to be. There's no reason for it to be. And if we're going to be collaborative and if we're going to build a space as sort of an...
I want to say this in a little bit of a different way than Nick is. You're either a partner with someone or you're an adversary with someone when it comes to negotiations like this. And a lot of employers and people who are entering into these types of contract negotiations, they view it as an adversarial process. They want to get as much out of the negotiation as they can possibly get. And whether or not that fucks over the person that you're negotiating with, they don't care. Even if it's like you're playing on the same team. Like, in theory, the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder should be on the same team. I'm not necessarily saying working for the same company, but like both of those organizations, like Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire, both want to advance conservatism. So in general, they're moving in the same direction, and they should be able to come to a mutually beneficial arrangement that works out for both parties. But it sounds to me like the way that the Daily Wire entered into the situation, which seems to be the way they've entered into every agreement that they've had with every creator working for them, is we're going to squeeze as much out of you as we possibly can. And we're going to put so many provisions in this contract that you are going to feel like you can't negotiate on all of these points. And we're going to use that to squeeze as much out of you as we possibly can. That's not a partnership. That's an adversarial relationship. It is pitting the organization, which is the Daily Wire, against the creator to try to get the creator to be the ones to force the Daily Wire to do the right thing. I have no patience at all for people or organizations or co-CEOs who don't do the right thing. Don't make excuses for why you couldn't come to the table and do the right thing. These organizations are printing money. They don't need to do these predatory contracts where their just sole purpose is to wring as much out of these creators as they possibly can. They don't need to do this, which is the point that Nick Ricade is making. They can come to the table and do the right thing. And the reason that the Daily Wire is making an hour-long response video to Steven Crowder is Steven Crowder came out and said that you're not doing the right thing. And the Daily Wire is now having to explain themselves and make a laundry list of excuses for why they didn't do the right thing.
An alliance of they're competing businesses, but we compete in the Randian way, the free market capitalist way, the way that says we're going to compete based on merit and based on talent, and we're going to help you be better because we're better than you are now, and so you'll want to beat us next time. That's the type of spirited competition that builds industries. And we can start there instead of starting with this very, very adversarial process and hoping that the predatory nature of what we're doing kind of drowns out their negotiating options. You can go two ways. I would have gone the other way, but I'm that kind of guy. And no, I don't ever fucking stop talking. If you don't like the commentary, just go masturbate to the video by yourself instead of masturbating to my words. Okay? Fuck off.
I'm not
I
trying
love
to hide
Nick
that fact.
Ricade.
I'm not ashamed of that fact. In fact, I think it's a very good offer. But I think there's a lot of sort of misconceptions about the nature of the offer, the nature of the points. I think Steven misunderstood a lot of the points.
What a
So,
condescending douche.
the way we do here at the Daily Wire, we're just going to be incredibly transparent.
You're
know that
not
we
incredibly transparent,
like
Jeremy.
to have our
Come on.
members be a part of the journey. We live stream all of our company town halls, for example.
Part of
We
the
just find
journey.
that sunlight sometimes is the best disinfectant. And so with that in mind, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we
Hang
came to
on. I don't give a flying fuck if the Daily Wire is live streaming all of their town halls. You want to know why? Because not a single effing management decision at the Daily Wire is getting made in those town halls. Management decisions for how companies are run are made in boardrooms behind closed doors with a few people that are in charge of running the organization. I don't know who those people are specifically at the Daily Wire, but I do sure as shit know that even if they did stream their town halls online, that does not mean you're getting insight into their decision-making process because the decisions have already been made by the time they go into the town hall. They make the decisions first, and then they do the town hall to bring everyone along with those decisions. But they're not making decisions in the town hall. They're making them before they ever go in there.
conversations with Steven, how those conversations ended, and walk you just line by line through what the actual document that we sent over to him, a non-binding term sheet, what it actually said and why. First thing you should know is that I'm really miserable to be making this video. Steven's been my friend for 10 years. I think he's
Then don't make
maybe
it.
the most
You didn't have to
talented
make
person
it.
working
Don't
in the
act like someone
conservative,
put a gun to your head.
media space.
No one put a gun to your
one of
head
the
to
top-
do this.
Then why did you kind of send him a shit offer? And I know he's going to say, well, this is only a first offer with no negotiation. If he's a friend that you've had for 10 years and he's the most talented guy in the industry, why are you starting from a shit premise?
Yes.
Why are you doing that?
I agree.
Entertainers in the country, politics notwithstanding, a great comic voice. And I find it really tragic that we're having this kind of a conversation. But it's also very important, I think, that we talk about it, in particular because I know a lot of people who are fans of the Daily Wire were really offended by the things that
They
Steven said in the
lost
video, and they're
subscriptions. That's what
concerned that
happened.
maybe we're doing the wrong thing. And I think that by the time
You
we
are
finish
doing
this
the wrong
video,
thing.
concerned?
you'll understand what we were thinking with our term sheet and how we operate as a business a little bit better. I've wanted to be in business with Steven since the day that I met him.
Then why did you send him a shitty
Ben and I
offer?
tried to do some even movie deals with Steven
God.
before there was CRTV and before there was a Daily Wire. For that entire time, we've talked at length at various times about getting together and doing things. Of course, for most of that time, he's been under contract, first at CRTV and then at the Blaze. So we weren't able to. And from time to time during the years, we would get together and daydream a little bit about, would there be a future for us to work together at the other end of that deal? We got word that Steven was finishing up his time at the Blaze and was interested in having a conversation with us. And so we reached out to his agent and we said, listen, we'd love to have a conversation. It's not every day that a monster talent like Steven comes on the market. We'd be bad businessmen if we didn't engage in a conversation with him. We weren't sure at that time if there was a deal to be had. I mean, for one thing, we're friends with Glenn, we're friends with Tyler, we're friends with all the guys at the Blaze. We weren't sure that we wanted to commit to making an offer to Steven. And
Why?
Steven's an expensive talent. I mean, he's been in the business a long time. He has an enormous fan base, and we knew that it would take a lot of doing to get him over to the Daily Wire. This at the same time that we're investing very heavily in kids' entertainment content and making real television content, streaming scripted fiction like the Pendragon Cycle and Atlas Shrugged and other projects that we've taken on. Would we have the resources? We weren't sure. But again, you have to have a
did they do
conversation.
Atlas Shrugged, that 3-part movie?
We're happy to have it. So
we
we reach out to the
different.
agent and we say that. We'd like to have a conversation with Steven, kind of get into the details of what's he looking for? What's he looking for financially? What's he looking for in terms of structure? What would make his life better? What would make him happy? He's got this opportunity now to have a next chapter. What's he want that next chapter to be? And Steven's agent candidly just wasn't interested in any aspect of that conversation. He only wanted to know about the money. He said, we're not going to have a conversation. We're not going to have some abstract talk. We're going to send us an offer. Tell us how much money you're willing to pay.
Yep.
And he gave us an indication of what the minimum number would have to be in order to even have a discussion with Steven. And it's a big number.
He did you a favor.
So we talked about it internally and we decided, we should do that. We should send over an opening offer, a non-binding term sheet that takes a stab at what we think that minimum number is going to be to get the conversation started so that we can sit down with Steven so that we can see if there's a deal that'd be good for him and good for us. And that's what we did. We put together the term sheet, we sent it over, and we asked if we could get on the phone and have a conversation with Steven. I'm going to walk you through.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. Well, Nick is obviously going to. This is fun. This is like I'm kind of talking to Nick Rerata about this, even though we're not even on the same stream. But I am actually I feel like we're having a conversation here. But I want to say this: if they were really interested in getting Steven Crowder, then they would not have sent over the offer they sent, because they would have known that offer was never going to fly with Steven Crowder ever. If they had put the minimum of thought into what type of, if they really wanted Steven Crowder on their network, they would have said, what is Steven Crowder looking for? Steven Crowder, obviously, Crowder has made enough content that they know he's going to want a certain number of ad reads on the show, and it's not going to be 5. They know he gets strikes on YouTube all the time. They know he's demonetized on YouTube. They know he likes pushing the boundaries. There are some very basic aspects of how Steven Crowder is going to operate that you can ascertain just by being a casual observer. Like, I don't watch any of these people, right? And I know that Steven Crowder doesn't do a lot of ad reads in his show. Steven Crowder is demonetized all the time. Steven Crowder likes pissing people off. Steven Crowder likes being controversial. That's part of who Steven Crowder is. Like he occupies a very specific niche. And so just based on these high level surface things that you know about him, you can start to say, all right, this isn't going to fly in the contract. This isn't going to fly in the contract. This isn't going to fly in the contract. We need to make sure we are crafting a contract that is going to be suitable for who Steven Crowder is and the if we only have one shot at this, and his agent is telling us, give us your best offer, and we only have one shot, we want to make the offer as appealing as possible. We have to take everything we know about Steven Crowder and match that into one of the most appealing contracts that we have ever written in our lives. And that is not the contract that was sent over at all, which tells me that this is the way we do it, Steven. And if you want to play ball with us, then you need to play ball with the way that we do it. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Sorry. It doesn't seem to me like they tried to woo him at all. It doesn't, that to me doesn't, like, what I know of this offer doesn't seem like it was the absolute best offer they could have articulated based on what they know about him. And to be quite blunt, if Jeremy and Ben Shapiro have had all of these conversations with Steven Crowder where they're just dreaming about the future possibilities of working together, they would have even more access to information about what Steven Crowder wants than any of us. They should have known. So it's either they didn't put enough thought into it because they didn't want it that much, which to me tells me it's like Steven Crowder absolutely should not have taken that deal at all. Because again, it was an adversarial thing. It wasn't about let's build this partnership together. It was an adversarial.
Again, non-binding term sheet. They're given. He seemed to double speak there. I don't know if you guys caught it, but he seemed to indicate that the agent gave him an idea of what that number would be, and then they came up with a number of what that number would be and sent it, which tells me that the agent told them a number and they went lower than the number. So they're already, in my opinion, I don't know if this is true. It's just the way he said it. It was kind of a weird wording and phrasing of it, but it sounds like they went, okay, that's where they're going to say, which is going to be high. So we're going to come in a little bit lower, and then we'll probably meet somewhere in the middle. But if the agent says, look, we're not talking under $70 million over 4 years or whatever, we're not talking less than $20 million a year, and they come in with 50 million over 4 years with maybe some incentive or whatever. I'm not sure what the total is. I've only heard kind of rumors about it. But if they come in below the number, then they don't want to come to the fucking table.
Exactly.
Like if someone says,
Nick is
look,
right.
our minimum entry is here.
And it's insulting. It's insulting is what it is when people do this sort of thing. Because Nick is absolutely correct. Steven Crowder's agent did the Daily Wire a favor saying, here's where we're at. Nothing under this. Here's where we're at. And so if someone gives you a boundary and then you say, I'm not really ready to meet that boundary yet, and not only am I not ready to meet it, I'm going to insult you by sending you something that's, significantly lower than what you told me you were ready for. That is insulting. It's insulting for someone that's worked as hard as Steven Crowder has. It was completely unnecessary. They didn't need to do it in this way.
That might be the minimum entry, especially if you're friends. Especially if you're colleagues.
Yes.
Like, especially, and they know who Crowder is, right? Like, Crowder is going to make this money.
He is.
Whether Daily Wire does it or not.
Exactly.
And it might be that Crowder would join Fox. I don't think so, but hypothetically, or OAN. I really don't think so, but hypothetically, there could be a competing offer on the table for someone like Steven Crowder. You don't know. So they shot their shot and it was low. That seems to be the indication.
Not only was it low, it was purposefully low.
If the money was higher, maybe. But it might not just be low because of the number. It might be low because of those other terms that are automatically going to reduce the number. And one of those terms that they know is going to reduce the number is him being demonetized on YouTube, which has already happened. So whatever offer they put on the table, when they have that 25% off thing, that 25% is going to be coming off of that offer immediately because he's already demonetized.
Exactly. They should have factored it into their offer.
You got to take whatever and knock a quarter off of it. And if you don't think their lawyers are going to argue that 25% discount is coming out of the fee immediately, you're insane. I've heard some people say, well, it was already off, so he wouldn't lose the 25%. No, he'll lose the 25%. And if he ever gets remonetized,
you need to go back and watch my stream from the beginning because I literally spoke to this.
Argue that in a contract dispute, and it would happen right away because his payment would be 25% lower than possible. Randall Gully says, so if your ex-wife passed and you were trying to get her death certificate to get your children's passport, how do you get that? The county clerk won't give it to me since I'm not the husband. You would have to probably ask an existing relative who would get that from you, or who would get that to you. But there really should be a way for you to get a death certificate from the county clerk. I'm surprised they won't give it to you at all. But the other way, you could check with, you may just have to check with a probate and estate lawyer in your jurisdiction. That would be the best way. Find out how you can go about requesting it. Gage M says, hello, Mr. Ricada. Big fan since Rittenhouse trial. Hey, thank you.
Hang on, I'm gonna speak to this super chat, or not. It's not a super chat, just a regular chat directly, because I've gotten a lot more viewers since I started the stream, and I spoke to this at the beginning. Just because $50 million is a lot of money to you doesn't mean $50 million is a lot of money to Steven Crowder. He is operating on a completely different playing field than the average person. Just because $50 million is a lot of money to one person does not mean that's going to be the driving decision-making factor for another person. Steven Crowder is perfectly capable of making $50 million on his own. And he could probably make significantly more than that. And it is a very, very, very attainable goal. Steven Crowder could probably make $50 million in 2 years instead of 4, or maybe even 1 year if he really got lucky. I think there's so many things that Steven Crowder can do to make money. And so $50 million for 4 years, while it might seem like a lot of money for us, it is not the same scale that he's looking at. So you have to understand that his decision-making process is not going to be only about that number. There's going to be a lot of other factors involved.
My birthday is today, Thursday. I'm toasting to you and hope I can get a toast back. Turning 24 and I'm pretty happy. Yeah, Gage, I got you. Oh man, I bought new liquor today, but I left it upstairs.
Like, for example, so Tinge is saying it's going to be $12.5 million a year. That doesn't include production costs for a show or anything else. For example, I know because a little birdie told me that Tim Pool makes like over $3 million a month. Something like that. You think Steven Crowder can't do better than Tim Pool? Of course he can. Steven Crowder has a much bigger fan base than Tim Pool does. So Steven Crowder could do significantly better than $12.5 million a year. He really could, guys. King Peter of the chat, 50 million, and he carries all the costs of production, which means his production and his show staff, which I think is 6 people. That's right, and that doesn't actually even include the cost of making the show, which I'm pretty sure that's going to be a significant cost. He would also have to give up his mug club. He would have to give up his merchandise. He would have to give up, there's so many things that Steven Crowder could do to make money that he would have had to sign over to the Daily Wire in order to take this contract. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the super chat.
Real quick, let's get a little toast going for Gage. Everybody who feels like it, wish Gage a happy birthday.
Hang on. It's still a lot of money and a good deal. It just would destroy Steven's entire thing. If it destroys your entire business, it is not a good deal. If it destroys everything that you've been working for your entire career, it is not a good deal. Money is not everything. And I understand that this is hard to understand if you're earlier in your career, or you're younger, or you don't have life experience, or you don't know what it's like to make money, or you don't believe that you can make money, or any of these things. But Steven Crowder has proven that he knows what it takes to be successful. He's proven it. He knows how to make money. He knows how to build a fan base. He knows how to do this stuff. He is playing based on a different set of realities. If it destroys everything that you want, but you get a lot of money, those are golden handcuffs. Not worth it.
24 is a cool year, I think. I don't know. I like birthdays. I like getting older in general. Every year feels a little bit more interesting to me. Gage, happy birthday. A big toast to you. 24. Look, you're not quite old enough to rent a car, I think. That's still 25. But you're old enough to be cooler than the people who just started drinking. Enjoy life. May your careers and travels be fruitful beyond your wildest imaginations, but it may take some time. Enjoy the time it does take, though. Learn everything you can and apply it to everything you do.
Have a good one, Metastep.
Happy birthday, buddy. Ehef says, I don't touch myself to your words. I touch myself to your face.
I did make the hat I'm wearing.
Well, I have to talk a little bit hotter then. Kyle Bogue says, I was a Daily Wire subscriber for a year. I'd like the Daily Wire even more if this dude was more of a silent partner. Also, it's good to be able to catch a show for a change. Great show as always. Hey, thanks, Kyle. Looking forward to spring, buddy. I'm driving the Mustang over and we're going to play some fucking golf. Mongo 5817, Big Con is beholden to their sponsors and not their audience. This guy is pissing on us and telling us it's raining. All right, here we go.
That document, what it says, what it doesn't say, some of how Stephen represented it. I'm sure he feels like he was being accurate, but some of the things that he said are simply not true based on the text. And
we'll see. Let's base it on the text.
Stephen's a very passionate guy. I think that he's...
we read the text that Crowder was reading, so it'd be kind of interesting to see where Crowder was wrong on, maybe he's saying on other inferences that are in there, but the text that Crowder put on the page is pretty straightforward, and I don't think his assessment was wrong.
Doing his level best to stand against what he sees as an injustice, but there is no injustice in this document, as I think you'll see. And then I'll tell you what happened.
Disagree.
Right after we sent the document,
Jeremy.
when I finally did get on the phone.
Disagree.
So first, here's the document, the non-binding confidential term sheet.
Okay.
I'm just going to walk you through it.
One of the things I've heard is that people are like, it wasn't a contract, Carlin. It was a non-binding term sheet. Functionally, it's exactly the same effing thing. I'm sorry. Anyone who is distinguishing between a contract and a non-binding term sheet, the non-binding term sheet articulates the points in the contract. It is the same thing. Distinguishing between the two just tells me that you have never actually negotiated a contract.
Full transparency. This non-binding term sheet sets forth the basic deal points of a proposed content production and distribution agreement between the Daily Wire, LLC, the Texas Limited Liability Company, and Stephen Crowder via his loan out, so that if and when the parties elect to move forward with a long-form agreement, they can move quickly in preparing a definitive and binding agreement.
He's saying it's like these are just the points in the contract.
This is just a conversation.
Okay.
No.
So yeah, it's just a conversation. I'm guessing he's going to go through this, but here we can see fee is $50 million for the initial term, which is 4 years. And then $25 million for every 2-year renewal at Daily Wire's sole discretion. So Daily Wire can choose to renew the contract or not after the 4 years for half the term, half the money. Makes sense. There's no built-in increase, which you would probably negotiate a built-in increase if you're going to have that renewal term in there. But, you know, for now, I think this is fair, or you negotiate some sort of thing in there. But this is it. So you're looking at what? $50 million over 4 years is what? $12.5 million a year, right? Do we have any idea? Do we have any idea how many Mug Club subscribers there are and how much Mug Club costs? How much does Mug Club cost?
Mug Club costs $100 a year, doesn't it? Pretty sure. I was in Mug Club at one time. I don't think I'm not anymore, but
Mug Club is still on
I'm pretty sure it's like $100 a year.
Blaze TV. $100 a year.
Yep.
$100 a year. Okay, so if he has 300,000, I'm seeing, times $100 a year, that's $30 million a year. My understanding is under the fee agreement, that goes to Daily Wire.
That doesn't really seem fair.
Now, I know it's not going to be that flat because there's incentives. Some people are saying it's $80 a year with the sale. But 300,000, let's say it's $50 a year. You're at $15 million a year.
No, so dude, this is the last time I'm going to address you because you're not listening. The terms in the term sheet are what goes in the contract. Could he have negotiated? Sure, I guess he could have tried. But if they send over a term sheet that is insulting, that shows that they don't really want him on their network, that shows that they haven't put any thought into this at all, you don't enter into negotiations with people who are acting in bad faith. You don't enter into negotiations with people who have shown you that they are not willing to partner with you, that they are going to wring everything they can out of you. The Daily Wire showed Stephen Crowder that they were not interested in working with him in any sort of thing that resembled a partnership. That's what they showed him with this. You don't go back. Steven Crowder would have been, how demeaning would that have been to Steven Crowder for him to be like, please, please, Daily Wire, please, can we please come up with something that represents something that is representative of what I am worth? You want him to go crawling to them? Absolutely not. I wouldn't have entered into negotiations with them either. Absolutely not. I am suffering no Daily Wire shills on my stream today. I'll tell you what.
He's already, just from Mug Club alone, over the Daily Wire yearly thing. It's only expected to go up. His Mug Club memberships are not expected to drop dramatically. So we've already got a problem. And this is probably where the conversation started, with the amount of money that would be required to even have the conversation with Crowder. You've got to out-earn Mug Club, or you've got to get me to Mug Club or slightly below, with some reasonable level of security that Mug Club doesn't offer me. These are the types of things that you're asking questions on. Why would Crowder negotiate his salary down $7 million a year? Like, why would he do that? Like, why is that?
I agree.
Why would we expect him to? Now, maybe he would if something was worth that to him.
All right. We're still not listening, and we're still not understanding how contracts work. And we're still not understanding how negotiations work. If an organization comes to you and they say, here are the terms, and you read those terms, and those terms are completely unacceptable on every possible level, are not something that you can work with, and demonstrate that the organization put absolutely zero thought into them. And on top of that, that organization was your friends who put zero thought into what was going to be a productive partnership. You don't negotiate with that, because they have already shown you that they didn't care enough to even try in the first place. They've already shown you that. If someone comes up and spits in your face, do you say, well, I'm sure that's just a starting point for negotiations? They spit in your face, bro. They spit in your face. This was his supposed friends? Spit in his face? And they want him to come back and say, I'm sure that's just a starting point for negotiations. Do you want to spit in my face again? How about if I get closer, will you spit in my face again? That's what we're talking about here. Do you want to slap my face next time? Would that be better for you? That's the type of negotiation we're talking about.
But I mean, we have to figure out what he's getting out of that. Now, when you also figure in all your merch is gone, like his merch sales, and merch sales for Crowder are probably a decent chunk of money. I don't know how great they are, but like my merch sales always sucked, but my merch always sucked because I designed it and I suck at designing merch. Crowder's got good people designing merch. So now you're talking about taking away that extra stuff, and you're talking about taking away one-time ticketed events and stuff like that. So I'm already seeing a problem here, but he is saying this is a non-binding, this is an introductory sort of offer. Okay. And an introductory here, let's get to a conversation. Here's what we're kind of expecting thing. But if this wasn't enough, this is just Crowder saying, fuck off. And he can do that. He's big enough to do it. Stephen Frost says, I think the biggest problem between Daily Wire and Crowder is that it seems Crowder wants a host where Daily Wire wants a partner. Skyrim 96
Daily
says,
Wire doesn't want a
this
partner.
Isn't a partnership agreement.
It's not a partnership agreement.
If Crowder, like, if Daily Wire wanted a partner, they would bring him in with profit sharing. That would be the trick.
It was an offer. And I'm going to be honest, the fact that so many people are taking the Daily Wire talking points and shilling them to me as though I don't know what I'm talking about, it just really shows how much people are not listening. If you're shilling Daily Wire talking points to me, like, come on, man. Like, save my time, please.
And Crowder, if Crowder wants a host, then, you know, these terms are just going to be all wrong. Owning his social media, owning his merch sales, owning stuff like that is not going to be useful to him. Skyrim96, from what I've seen so far, he's missing the point. It wasn't about the money. It was about the Daily Wire not going against big tech. That was the point from what my
Exactly.
knowledge. When's the last time
Yes.
Ben has had a strike? And this has been something I've been seeing lately.
Mhm.
When has Daily Wire been in danger with YouTube and big tech? They don't seem to have any danger problems there.
Isn't
They
that
don't seem
convenient?
to talk about any content. The last time I remember Ben Shapiro being a problem with anything remotely close to big tech was Berkeley, right? And that's not big tech. That's big edu, big.edu. But when the Battle of Berkeley, I think that was Shapiro, wasn't it? Where they refused to let him speak or whatever. But it's been a couple years since I've heard of Ben Shapiro being canceled from an engagement. Now, maybe I'm wrong because I don't pay that much attention.
Yes.
Mega Panda
And
over
we
on Rumble says,
and just so people know, if you're new, we confirmed yesterday that the Daily Wire is not demonetized. Sam ran some magic code thing that showed us that the Daily Wire is not demonetized. Because this is another thing I heard from a lot of people when this started. They were like, Carlin, obviously the Daily Wire doesn't care about monetization because they're not monetized. No, they're monetized. They are absolutely monetized. And if you think that they are not monetized, it is because they want you to think they're demonetized. Why would the Daily Wire want you to think they're demonetized? Because they're colluding with big tech and they don't want you to figure it out. That's why.
A meta-political initiative based on peaceful and lawful activism against indoctrination and grooming of children. Please check it out. Project 171 official on Twitter. 18 plus gets rid of us. Okay. I don't know what exactly that means, but people can check that out if they want. Kyoto says Daily Wire has Jeremy's investors got to feed with consistent revenue from ads on big tech. Their brand is inoffensive to 35-year-old suburban white women, bad fit for viewer-centric Crowder. And Nunya Business says, hey, Nick, I sent you a PM on Twitter about my situation. My niece set up a Give, Send, Go campaign for me. I don't use Facebook, and my Twitter seems to only have sub-bots as followers. I'm just looking for a little bit of help. Okay, I'll try and find that. We got to get into this content here.
Preparing a definitive and binding agreement. That's just legalese. That means this is just a conversation starter, and we're obviously going to have a negotiation if we move forward, and a lot of these points are going to get beat up. And for those of you who've never been through a contract negotiation, well, that's how it works. When you send someone an offer, you don't send them everything that you're willing to say yes to, because there is going to be a negotiation, because agents and lawyers are going to get involved, because you can't read their mind. And you don't know everything that will be important to them.
You
and
knew
everything
some things, Jeremy. You knew more than you're pretending you didn't know.
Sort of non-negotiable points. And so you send over.
But what you learn in negotiation is that it is like the most effective negotiations are collaborative processes. And when you start at the hostile part and you guys are this far apart to start, you have a much harder time getting to the middle where people are playing games
Nick
and
is
trying
right.
to fool each other. You've already said that Crowder's been your friend for 10 years. You've been wanting to work with him forever. Why are you starting here and thinking he's starting here?
That's
when
what
you
I said
could
earlier.
Start here and have him be here.
He's correct.
And come to the middle. You seem again, you're talking as if he's your friend, but at the same time talking as if he's an adverse party that you're trying to take over with the least amount of pain for your company, but you're willing to come way up. Start higher. Open with that. Say, hey, we're not fucking around here. We don't want to screw you. We like you. You know you're big. You know we're the biggest conservative media outlet out there. We've got some of the real powerhouses. We've got Walsh. We've got Knowles. We've got Ben Shapiro. And adding a Crowder would really round out our lineup with bringing in new people to Daily Wire who might not otherwise jive with our rather stuffy content. We want that sort of edgier comedic aspect to it. So let's not fuck around. Let's not fight each other. We're collaborative here. Let's go for it. You can do this. This works in negotiation when negotiations can be friendly and when the other party is honest. Both of these guys are presenting themselves as honest dealers, and I think that's fair. I think Daily Wire should be an honest dealer, and I think Crowder would be an honest dealer with them, especially if they're actually friends, unless they're just blowing.
Hang on. The initial offer is not that tricky when you claim to be friends with someone for 10 years and you have had multiple conversations with them about potentially working together in the future, because they already would have known many of the things that Crowder would have wanted, even not just based on those behind the scenes conversations, but based on the way that Crowder runs his show to begin with. And so this was not tricky. This was not hard. This was not theoretical. If Jeremy Boeing really wanted Steven Crowder to come onto the Daily Wire, then what he should have done is gone through that initial term sheet and say, he's not going to agree to this. He's not going to agree to this. This number's too low. This isn't going to work for him. He can make more money on his own doing this. He would have red penned all of this stuff and said, this is not going to work for Steven Crowder. Based on everything we know about Steven Crowder, how can we craft an extremely appealing offer? They should have fucking wooed him. They should have shown up at his door with flowers and chocolates and cigars and say, Steven, you want to come get in bed with us? You want to marry us, Steven? Come on, Steven. We are the most appealing offer that you have. That's what they should have done. Do you know what they did? They drove up to Crowder's house, honked from the side of the road, and then when Crowder didn't scurry out fast enough, drove off, and then called him from the restaurant and said, bro, sorry, I waited for like 2 minutes, but you didn't come outside. Can you want to take a lift? That's not someone I want to get in bed with. That's not someone I'm going out with. I don't care how much money that person has. I don't care what fancy restaurant they were taking me to. You treat me like that, you ain't getting me in bed with you, bro. And it's the same thing with Crowder. It's the same thing with this. They didn't give him an appealing offer. They had every ability to. They had every advantage to. Been friends with him for 10 years. They could have done better.
Smoke for the viewers on this thing, and I don't think that that's what Jeremy Boring's doing here. Not a Lizard Person says Rogan makes $50 million a year from Spotify, has 195 million premium subs. Daily Wire, 900,000 subs, offered Crowder 12.5 million per year. 25% of Rogan for the initial offer, averaged across YouTube, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Crowder has 34.4% of Joe Rogan's reach. I think the offer was fair. You can think the offer is fair. I don't, because it looks like Crowder makes more money than the offer already, and the offer would eliminate the money that he makes on his own. But you can think it's fair. I just don't.
They should have been tempting Steven Crowder with hookers and blow.
And then they're going to beat it up a little bit. They're going to say, well, this should be higher and this should be lower. And you're going to come back and say, no, we're going to stand firm here, but we're willing to compromise there. And over time, you either get to a deal or you don't get to a deal. But that's how a good faith negotiation always works.
No,
100% of every interaction I've ever had with any talent, that's the process.
That's a shit process.
Yep, I agree.
That's a shit process. But like, I've negotiated friendlier divorces than that shit. Fuck off. Like, come on.
And so here we go. Here was our offer. A 4-year initial term with 2-year renewal at DW's sole discretion. That just means Steven's going to work for DW for 4 years. And if it's going really well, DW can retain him for an additional 2 years. 2, the fee. Remember, this is the minimum number that we thought would get the conversation started with Steven. $50 million for the initial term, plus $25 million for the renewal term, if extended, paid in monthly installments. Like I say, a pretty big number, but we thought for a talent like Steven, this is probably the minimum number that's going to get.
You knew the minimum number. They told you the minimum number.
Again, that
3,
50 million
production costs. This is important.
The 50 million sounds like a lot until you realize that Crowder probably already out earns that 50 million.
We've never made a deal quite like the offer that we put in front of Steven, because Steven, very independent guy. I mean, all of our talent have very independent voices. Obviously, we can't tell them what to say. You know, Candace says what she wants, and Jordan Peterson says what he wants. Ben, Michael. But Steven has always built in this protection for himself that he wants to actually produce his content. He doesn't want, you know, most of our guys that come to the studio and we turn on the cameras, we point the cameras, we point the lights. Steven likes to do that with his own team to just make doubly sure that no one's interfering with his content, not that we would. And so we anticipated that, and we said, Crowder will bear the burden of production, including all costs associated therewith, on all the content contemplated herein, except on the quarterly and annual content contemplated below. we'll get to that part.
Okay, and they're just
Because
gonna
you're not
breeze past that.
listening. Because you're not listening. Because you haven't listened to every time that I've told you that the money is not Crowder's most important negotiating point. Because you haven't listened to every time that Nick Ricada has told you that Crowder is making more money than that right now on his own. Guys, if you want to understand someone's decision-making process, I promise you that the very first step is that you need to listen. If you don't listen and you don't keep an open mind that different people have different life experiences than you, that different people have different values than you, then you're not going to understand their thought process, and I quite frankly don't really know what you're doing here. But if you want to listen and understand their thought processes, please mount that like button for me.
Crowder's already doing that. Crowder's already bearing the burden of the cost of his show. So they're asking him to take a pay cut, and they're not even taking on production costs for him. Because we know that Crowder wants to do that. That's a very weaselly way around saying that, yeah, not only are we giving him this offer that seems lower than his Mug Club membership already brings in, but we're also not going to defray the low offer by covering production and staffing costs because we think Crowder would want that. He's always built that protection in. Well, building that protection in is great. Why don't you pay the staff then? Take them on as Daily Wire staff or something. Agree to do that. There are ways around that. But if you're giving him a lower fee than what he's already making and he's still bearing the cost of production, what incentive does he have to take the lower fee?
A little bit later, it's kind of a novel concept. The quality of the production will be as good as or better than his currently existing content. This just,
How can
again,
you show
Steven's
that?
going to produce his own content. It has to be as good as the stuff that Steven's audience has come to expect from him. And that'll come out of the 50 million. So it's not like all of that 50 million goes right in Steven's pocket. He's going to use some of it.
This is actually a
to
really
pay
good
for
point.
a lot of it.
This is a really good point that Christy is making in the chat. So Nick's point that they could have made Steven's staff Daily Wire staff is well taken. That would have been a way around it. But to Christy's point, if they had made them Daily Wire staff, that means that the Daily Wire could have also fired them, even if Steven Crowder didn't want to fire them. So I don't think that that's actually the best solution. I think that, they could have included, I don't know what the solution is for that, man, like an expense like account on top of it to cover Steven's cost of production. I don't know. They could have worked it out, but I do think that it would have been better overall for Steven to retain complete control over his team.
Producers and
guys, I'm seeing in the chat that Steven Crowder just posted a response. I want to watch this response. We're gonna deal with Crowder's response later. Maybe not even today because I got something I got to do at 8. But if you guys want to tell me what his response is in the chat, then I will keep an eye on it.
studio space and camera equipment and operators and lights, just like we're going to use some of the money that we make to pay for the infrastructure and the technology and the marketing and the legal and all the other parts that go into making a successful business. Revenue collection that says we'll have the exclusive right to realize revenue in connection with all of his content and brand. We're paying you this guaranteed significant amount of money, $50 million. And for that, one of the things we're buying is the content, but we're also buying the right to monetize the content so that we can have a chance of making some money and not just spending money. What is the content? First, we broke this into...
Yeah, so they'll take the money, all of the monetization. They're going to pay him, and in exchange, they say they're buying the content. They're buying the money that the content earns. I mean, that's their risk in this, is that Crowder will produce content that people continue to want to buy, that they'll continue to pay to support. That's their downside risk. And that makes perfect sense. But again, what they're doing is they're saying, like, again, hypothetically, Mug Club makes $15 million a year based on that one number.
Okay. Does everyone want to hang on?
Maybe it's way lower.
Tinge is saying that Steven Crowder's video is called I Don't Want to Do That. I Didn't Want to Do This. And that it's 15 minutes long. All right, let's watch Steven Crowder's fucking video. Hang on. We're taking a break. I just need a second to find it. Steven Crowder Oh, I spelled Steven Crowder's name wrong. Oh, great. That's awesome. It's always the PH and the EV. Or the you guys know it's fucking Steven. The V. Here, I just renamed I just spelled Steven Crowder's name correctly in the title of this video. Okay, hang on. We're gonna watch Crowder. He looks, oh god, he looks saucy even at the start of the video. See, the problem with the Steven PH and the Steven V is I dated a Steven with a V and I've been traumatized ever since. No, he was actually a really nice guy. He was in the Air Force. He was in the Air Force. And then he got married and didn't tell me. This was like years later. Then he accidentally cheated on his wife with me when he got married and didn't fucking tell me he was married. And we had an interlude one night. And I find out 2 weeks later he got married and didn't tell me. I was like, what the fuck, bro? Anyway, that was more information than you guys needed. Let's sit back, kick up our feet, and Steven Crowder is going to tell us what he didn't want to do.
They don't get deals that
they can be wage slaves for a little bit, come over and make a salary and grow their brand. They can be wage slaves for a little bit. They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
God bless the talk boy. Those things are worth like $5,000 now. It's an expensive gag. So didn't want to have to do this, but Daily Wire outed themselves very, very quickly. And sure enough, if you see all of the people who work there, some of whom I have relationships with, they immediately tried to make this all about money. Here's the problem. There are a few problems, and I'll go through with some receipts. Everything that was said about negotiations, how they transpired, beyond the numerical value, which is true, and I'll get to, everything else is untrue. I don't really want to get into that. It's completely irrelevant. Here's why. Go back to the 20-something minute video, 30-minute video. You've never heard me say or write anywhere online that these offers weren't paying enough money.
That's right.
Why? Because it's not about the money.
Exactly.
It's kind of unreal to me that the only thing these people can still talk about is the money. The conversation was about conservatism, the movement, and big tech. They keep talking about money. I'm talking about a country. I'm talking about a movement. I'm talking about making a difference. It's not about the money. And Jeremy and the Daily Wire know that. How do I know they know that? Because after, according to what he said, I walked away from the offer. I did place one more call to the Daily Wire, and I made it very, very clear that it wasn't about money. That was not the topic of conversation. There was zero, as they've tried to portray this, miscommunication. It was one last call where the only thing that I asked for, my only demand, was their word, and not even for me, but for other people coming up facing these kinds of contracts. Let's say it's a kid who comes in with 500,000 YouTube subscribers or something like that, 100,000. Let's say it's some other kid you're paying 6 figures to come in and do it. There's not the penalty of the demonetization or if they're removed from iTunes, Apple, YouTube.
Yeah, sure there would be.
And here's something else.
Fucking base Crowder.
Very measured. I was painstakingly clear in taking myself off the table because it wasn't going to be a right fit. That happens in business all the time. But that we weren't talking about me. We were talking about the futures of other people who could potentially be in that position, that very disconcerting position. No miscommunication. What I'm talking about is you're describing a model for everyone, not just, let's get rid of me here. Everyone, if there's a penalty for being demonetized on YouTube, because your business model requires that be a huge component of it, you need to change your business model or this movement cannot work, Jeremy. I can't imagine my show trying to come up and be beholden to YouTube advertiser guidelines, let alone, honestly, being beholden from a conservative entity with hard strikes, right? Being removed, but let alone being advertiser friendly. We know how broad those guidelines are. They might as well just read, don't say anything offensive and they change them at the drop of a hat.
I'm not suggesting that the guidelines aren't terrible. I'm suggesting that if making money off of those platforms is part of how you're justifying the salary you're paying someone, then or the fee I keep saying salary, the fee you're paying someone, then when those go away, everybody loses money. You can't pay the same amount with less revenue.
Based Steven Crowder. Holy shit. Steven Crowder got Jeremy Bowie to say this stuff and recorded him saying it? Based motherfucker. I have a whole new level of respect for Steven Crowder right now, and I'm going to tell you why. Steven Crowder put out that video the other day knowing that everyone would know it was the Daily Wire, and knowing that the Daily Wire would act with such hubris that they would respond to it. And he did this knowing that in his back pocket, he had the recorded phone call with Jeremy Bowie, where Jeremy's saying, yeah, we're still going to fuck people over, Steven. And Steven is there looking like a saint saying, it's not just about me. It's about all this other stuff. It's about the model. It's about you guys colluding with big tech. And now Jeremy Bowie has just said, well, we can't really differentiate. We can't really create a different business model, Steven. We really have to collude with big tech. That's just the way we're going to go. Wow. Let's keep going.
How about you create a different business model? Now, I know what...
Yes, and Jeremy Bowie could create a different business model. They absolutely could. So all you Daily Wire shills that are in my chat right now, I don't want to fucking hear it. I really don't want to hear it. Don't tell me that the Daily Wire is trapped through a set of golden handcuffs to collude with YouTube to censor conservatives. Don't tell me they have no other choice. They can create any business model they want. They don't need to pander to YouTube in order to do this. They can create any business model they want in the world. They are choosing not to. They are choosing to collude with YouTube because they are establishment shills. The Daily Wire are establishment shills. I don't know when people are going to realize this. They are never going to push the envelope. They are never going to do anything other than try to push the establishment line. They are never going to go against big tech because they want that big tech money. And conservatives working with them and supporting them, yeah, I'm going to say it, are complicit. You are complicit in supporting big tech. It is time for conservatives who claim... Oh, shit. I just hit my desk so hard that my second laptop just fell off the stand I have over here. I don't know what's going on there. But it is time for conservatives who claim to care about big tech to stop supporting the Daily Wire. I'm going to say it. And I know my opinion doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot of anything. But if you support the Daily Wire with your money and your subscription, you are supporting YouTube censorship. I don't know how much more clear that people like Steven Crowder can make this for you. If you are supporting the Daily Wire, you are supporting YouTube censorship. How can you possibly justify that? How can you possibly justify that when you continue to complain and complain and complain and complain and complain and complain and complain? Everything that the Daily Wire tells you from here on forward should be considered suspect at best because Steven Crowder has caught them right in the act. Based motherfucker. King Steven. I'm even going to learn how to spell his name right now. King Steven Crowder.
Some of you are thinking, of course, telling someone else, hey, change your business model. I get it. I'm in no position to say that unless instead of Monday morning quarterbacking it, here's the thing. I didn't just offer criticisms. I offered a guide on how to, here's the deal. I want to sit at the table with people who, granted, have an immense amount of power and have incredibly deep pockets. That is all true, to be clear. And by the way, it's something that I want to have on our side of the aisle. But I offered a guide on how to do it. It is incumbent, this is what this is about. It is incumbent upon conservatives, if we believe what we say, to uncouple, to divest, if you want to use that term, from big tech, right? For the business models of the movement as we move forward, to not rely on playing ball with Facebook and with YouTube. That is something that we have to move toward. You know that we've been trying to do that here for years. That's why every single show we say, hey, if you can watch on Rumble, please do so. We're not looking to be banned on YouTube, but at least we certainly won't compromise the truth in order to be advertiser friendly. Here's the thing, Daily Wire, Jeremy, and I really do hope that we can talk at some point. Please, you can pick up the phone. We've done that. We here have found a way to make that work. For proof, see election night, our numbers on Rumble there, and see the numbers on Rumble when we get suspended from YouTube. I think it was 4 times this last year. And I went to great lengths to communicate that to the people at Daily Wire. There can be no next me if the people at the top with the financial resources are doing the bidding. That's being the arm of big tech. What you just said is, well, we have to play ball with big tech if we want to make money. Well,
oh God, he is such a king.
You guys follow a model like I have.
Oh God,
that's what I've been doing since 2014. You know that has been trying to make sure, which I thought we were all doing, that we can all flip the bird to Silicon Valley. This is saying we need him and you need to play ball. And by the way, before some of you ask for this, look, there's always personal information on phone calls. And for the record, I've recorded 3 people on phone calls in my life. All 3 are involved with big tech. Just to be clear, the entire call transcript has been sent to others to verify without hopefully having to release the whole thing. And I'll be on Tim Pool's show, I believe, on Monday to talk about it.
Oh
now,
my
this
God.
is something else that's been brought to my attention. Look, some people have been sent out from Daily Wire and have gotten very personal. Obviously, when we released this video, we didn't name names, and I told you there are a lot of people in the space who have made offers, and it is true. There are quite a few, and there are some others that have been pretty similar to this. This isn't an incredibly unique scenario, but there have been some good people out there too, and we're still talking with them. So I do know that some people from Daily Wire have come out, maybe been instructed to. I have no idea. I don't care. And they've gotten very personal. I don't want to do that. At least I didn't want to. But now it's sort of necessary for me to do so. So these are the only personal things I will say about the people at Daily Wire. Andrew Klavan is one of my favorite people of all time. He has an unbelievable skill to make you feel like the smartest guy in the room, even though I guarantee you he's smarter than you. There are very few people whose company I enjoy more than Andrew Klavan. Jordan Peterson is not only a friend, I would go to the wall for him. He's a guy who has changed the landscape of our country for the better. Can't say enough good things about him. Ben Shapiro is possibly the smartest person I know. That's as personal as I'll get. Now, here's the thing. Only after that final call, after negotiations had followed through, pleading on the side of principle and knowing that it was completely met with deaf ears, did I come out like I did? See, here's the thing, they keep talking about a business. Well, I walked away from the table because I'm talking like it's about a country, about a movement. And this is the thing, the response that I've heard over the years, it's not just now. I've been doing this for a long time. You constantly hear, it's just business. It's just business. Well, guess what? It's not to me. Sure.
I completely agree with Steven Crowder on this, and I'm going to tell you why. I am so sick of hearing conservatives make excuses for why they can't do something, and then they go, it's just business. It's nothing personal. It's just business. It's nothing personal. It is personal when you are going out and making money by shilling to the public that you believe in things that you are not willing to stand behind. If you are saying things on the air, on the Daily Wire, complaining about tech censorship, complaining about how conservatives are censored, complaining about how they're victims of the world, complaining about how you have to create your own parallel economy and your own brand of TV shows and your own brand of razors and your own brand of this and your own brand of that and your own brand of the other thing. If you are going and complaining constantly about how conservatives are victimized in the world, and then behind the scenes, you participate in the victimization and you say, well, I know publicly we say that we don't believe in what big tech is doing, but privately we have to be in bed with them and we have to suck their cock because it's just business, Stephen. It's just business. I'm sure you understand. I am sure that you don't mind getting down on your knees to suck off big tech because it's business. And we can't do anything differently or create a different business model that we claim to want, that we claim to need, that we claim is critical to advancing conservative culture in this country. We can't possibly do that behind the scenes because it's business. Are you shitting me? I'm sorry. Any conservatives who continue to support the Daily Wire after what Steven Crowder is showing you right now, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how you possibly think that you are going to change culture and get big tech under control when you are paying people money to continue to shackle conservative voices to the big tech that you claim to hate. The only way that the Daily Wire learns a lesson is if people cancel their subscriptions. That is the only way they learn because it's just business. And you should say that when you cancel your subscription. It's just business. It's not personal, Daily Wire. It's just that I don't believe in colluding with YouTube and forcing conservative content creators to follow YouTube censorship guidelines in order to be on your platform. It's just business. That's what you have to say. It's not personal. And if you don't do that, you get what you get, man.
Sure, I run a business, but it's not just business. And let me ask you, when have you ever heard someone say it's just business when they're doing the right thing? Ever hear someone give $250,000 to charity and say it's just business? And here's something that I would like to ask you, because I know that they've tried to play the identity politics and misrepresent the whole financial situation. But yeah, over the course of 4 or 5 years, the total operational budget, meaning 25, 30 employees, all of the costs, security, health insurance, would have been somewhere in the $50 million ballpark for that total operational budget. That is true. Okay. First off, I think it's a good thing for conservative companies out there to be generating or capable of generating far more than that. It'd be better than just Disney and just Netflix and just Hulu Plus. And I'd like the people who are in charge of that to be people who are willing to walk away from that if it comes with strings attached, with people who hate everything you stand for. So let's take that at face value, okay? I want you to ask yourself this question, okay? Put yourself in my shoes. What would it take? How much do your principles matter to you? What kind of a headspace would you have to be in to walk away full stop from $50 million? Let me ask you even further. What would it take for you to be willing to walk away from at least $50 million because of it causing harm to someone else that doesn't even affect you, but the next kid? I've talked about this, you have it in comedy. I'm never going to be the guy who pulls the ladder up after me. What motivates me
Thank you,
is
Pilgrim.
not money. Of course,
I
everyone here
appreciate
likes
it.
nice things. They want to make a living. You've heard me say this many times. I want to pass the torch. I want there to be someone else to do this. It can't happen if this is how our movement is structured.
For people who still don't understand why this is not about money, Steven Crowder has had multiple health scares in recent years. And I don't know the details of all the health scares. I do know that he's been in the hospital. I do know that stuff has gone on with his wife. When you have multiple health scares, you start to think about your legacy. You start to think about, what am I leaving behind? What Steven Crowder is telling you, that those of you in the chat who really think that this is just about money, what Steven Crowder is telling you right now is this has nothing to effing do with money. And if you don't start listening, you will not understand why he's doing this. This is about legacy. This is about, he just said it, passing the torch, making sure he's paving the way for people to come after him. That is what he cares about. That is what his priority is. Everything about his actions tell you that's what his priority is, and it's probably because he has had major health scares in the recent years. Death is not a far-off concept to Steven Crowder. He had to live it. He got close to it. So, of course, that's going to be more of a decision-making factor to him than $50 million, because he can make that on his own. He does not need the Daily Wire to do that.
And you know that, by the way, this could do irreparable damage to the movement, the country, and the people who've fought so hard for the ground gained if we've decided to get in bed with these people who want to strip it away. I'm asking, would you walk away? What would it take for you to walk away from $50 million? Because it's true. That's exactly what I did.
Good for you, Steven.
It's exactly what I'm doing. And so long as these contracts out there include enforcement of big tech, of punishing conservative creators on behalf of the people we claim to fight and the people who have long since demonetized us.
For real, King Peter in the chat.
Part of me doesn't blame them. As long as these contracts include that, not even for me, but the next person, I wouldn't take $1 billion. And certainly not if you understand in context, when behind closed doors, I know, and these people know and acknowledge exactly what's being done to the next generation of creators.
Bench talent, young talent, they don't get deals like this.
So they don't get deals that
They can be wage slaves for a little bit, come over and make a salary and grow their brand.
that you then own.
Well, I own parts of it. I don't own it. They can, when their contract's up, they can still go out and they'll still be famous. They can keep doing their show, so go do a show somewhere else.
He just said that young upcoming talent are going to be wage slaves to him, but he'll make them famous in exchange. What else are they going to have to sell? You know, during 2020, when I got all the subs to my YouTube channel, like, and I grew this platform really, really, really quickly, it was made extremely clear to me in no uncertain terms that if I just pretended to be a conservative, which I never did, but if I had pretended to be a conservative and said the conservative talking points and played the role of being the Democrat that left the left and then became a staunch conservative and just started talking their talking points every single day, I can't even, it was made extremely clear to me that I would make a lot of money. But I couldn't do that. I cannot tell you guys how much money I gave up on to not do that. And I'm not even playing this game. Like, I never wanted to have a show or anything. But like streaming is fine. I didn't want to do like a formal thing. But like, it was made extremely clear to me that I would make a lot of money. And I couldn't do it. And you know what? There are and I was very lucky to be in a position where I didn't have to do it because I have multiple streams of income. I do not need YouTube revenue to make a living. That was never what my jam was. My point is this though. Young content creators who are just starting out can get sucked into contracts like this where they do not have a choice but to toe the line and say the talking points and do it again and again and again and again and again. And Jeremy Boeing is telling us right now, based on this phone call that Steven Crowder recorded, that he is going to pay them slave wages. He's going to work them to the bone, but he's going to make them famous. But are they going to be made famous for saying things that they believe in? Or are they going to be made famous for shilling their conservative talking points? Because you can get very famous by shilling conservative talking points, but what do you have to give up? What do you have to leave behind? You have to sell your soul. It is really difficult when you're in that situation to not sell your soul. And there have been times in the last 2 years where I have looked back and I'm like, man, life would be so much easier right now if I had just sold my soul when I had the chance to sell it. And I have life experience and I have other ways to make a living, and I didn't need to sell it for money, but like I cannot imagine being in a position of being like a young 20-something content creator. And I'm getting this offer from the Daily fucking Wire, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm never going to get something like this again. And you really feel pressured into taking these predatory contracts. I know, because I used to have to do stuff like this when I was first starting out in training, in like corporate training. I used to have to take contracts that were not advantageous for me, but in order to get started in the business and to get clients and that sort of stuff, I understand the pressure of it. But Jeremy Boeing is telling you he's exploiting young conservative talent in a way that's probably going to lead to them getting burnout, in a way that is never going to push a populist agenda, which is what I think the base actually wants. God bless Steven Crowder for exposing this. Jen said she just canceled her subscription too. Boycott the shit out of them, guys. If you ever want this movement to change, and I'm saying this, I'm not even a conservative. I don't have any skin in this game, but I know how to change things when I know how to change stuff like this, and you don't change it by continuing to pay people money to bend you over and fuck you. You don't change things by continuing to support the way that things have always been done before. You have to give the Daily Wire reason and incentive to change. And guess what? If conservatives find their balls and they actually make the changes that Steven Crowder is telling them they need to make, if the Daily Wire does it, then other organizations are going to do it too. But if the Daily Wire doesn't do it and they're still successful anyway, then they're going to show other organizations that you can use and abuse young conservative talent, that you never have to push the envelope, that getting in bed with big tech was exactly the right thing to do. What conservatives do from here on forward after this is exposed is going to set the tone for the type of content that is going to be created by these organizations moving forward. If conservatives backlash hard enough against the Daily Wire, they will change the Daily Wire, because Jeremy Boeing is telling us flat out that all he cares about is the money, honey. That's what he's saying to us. And he's saying, it's just, guys, it's just business. It's nothing personal. Just business. Janet said she just canceled her Daily Wire subscription. To hell with people like this. Thank you for the super chat, Janet. I appreciate that. Sonia canceled her subscription. How many other people canceling Daily Wire subscriptions today? Let's continue.
They'll be in a far, far, far better place. You helped make them.
No, not long as this contract. This contract owns it in perpetuity even after the contract. You're paying a lease but getting ownership. That's what this contract is.
On the content that we paid to produce, yes.
Well, that
look,
makes a
I understand there are
difference
going to
too.
be differing opinions on
Thank
this.
you for
I
the
understand
super
that.
chat.
As someone who does run a business and has to 20, I think maybe 25 employees, I don't know, we're expanding. I understand people run businesses differently and have different priorities. Here's the thing. I would genuinely still, Daily Wire, Jeremy, love to sit down at the table and explain to you how you can make all of this work, how you can scale what we do and not have to be beholden to the people who we all go out and claim that we're fighting, and especially with all of the financial resources that you have, which, by the way, are very impressive. And by the way, since fielding requests for people who've sent this in who you guys are under these kinds of contracts, right? You've sent in your emails. If you're looking to either join a network or looking to navigate these contracts, we've been flooded. I'm going to try and get to all of you. But here's the thing. Let me give you my word right now. My word. Everyone, you can timestamp it, call me on it. Here at Mug Club, we will never take any ownership over your social media platforms or your channels. And I don't want a dime ever of your YouTube revenue. You make your own decision as to whether you want to be monetized or not. Some people want to, some people don't. I just have a problem with requiring that you do and penalizing you if you don't. And to Daily Wire, to the rest of the people out there, give me a call. And look, let me put it this way. If you give me your word, this is all that matters here. Just give me your word that there will never be a clause in a contract again for some unsuspecting kid or someone who doesn't have the luxury to walk away from $50 million, as I did, true, guilty as charged. Give me your word that you will not penalize them 25% for demonetization, another 20% for a strike, another 20% for Facebook, Spotify, Apple, up to 80%. Just give me your word that that clause, that spirit will not be in any contract sent out to anyone else who's at the front lines fighting for this country, and we're done. All of this stops right now. You will never hear from me again. I will go out and sing your praises. You can pick up the phone. You have my word. That's all it is. That's all this is about. In the interim, to everyone else, stopbigcon.com. Be a signatory. I'll see you Monday. Tim Pool.
I got to tell you guys, you know, Brandon says this isn't the behavior of a leader, it's the behavior of a leech. I hope you're talking about the Daily Wire with that, Brandon. I agree with that. We've got a couple more people saying that they're unsubscribing from the Daily Wire. Where did Tim Pool mention me? I have no idea what this is about, but if you mentioned me, cool. If you mentioned my work, cool. That would actually be shocking. But also great. That's a different thing. Listen, I am so happy right now. Like in 2021, I had a really big falling out with conservatives because I came to the conclusion that none of them actually believed what they said they believed. I'm gonna get emotional. I'm crying. I had a really big falling out because I kind of came to the conclusion that none of the establishment conservatives that I had surrounded myself by in 2020 actually believed anything that they said that they believed. I really, it really was very blackpilling for me because I'm like, you know, like these people claim to believe in free speech. They claim to believe in individual liberties and not a single person is acting like it. And they cancel people that are like even worse than they cancel people like even worse than the left does. At least they did to me, and it was really upsetting to me. And honestly, for like the past couple years, it's been really difficult because I feel like I've been screaming for a principled position. Like just one fucking person take a principled position. And this is the first time in the last couple of years that I've actually seen a conservative take a principled position. And I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think that this was I didn't think that this was something that would ever happen. And I gotta be honest. I'm impressed by Crowder, man. I used to watch Crowder all the time. And I stopped watching him not because of him in particular, but because I stopped watching pretty much everyone, as you guys know. I don't really watch other content creators except if I'm doing something like Nitwits. And you know, I always thought Crowder was very smart. I always thought he was very good at what he did. You know, I mean, he's a bro. He's a man's man. You know, I'll watch him in bits. Used to watch him in bits and pieces. I couldn't watch him every day though. But I gotta tell you guys, I have watching what Steven Crowder just did, I have so much respect for him. I have so much respect for what he did. That's a man right there. That is a man that actually believes the things that he says. This is what I'm talking about when I say that you can tell what someone believes through their behavior. This is what I'm talking about. Steven Crowder didn't just go on Twitter and his show and say, you know, be against big tech censorship and say down with big tech, down with big tech, down with big tech. But then he colludes with them in the background like the Daily Wire does. Steven Crowder walked away from a $50 million contract to stand by his principles. This is how you know what he believes, and he believes in this. I mean, this is like one of the first white pills I've had in a long time, man, about the conservative movement. Maybe this will start something. And if, like, I've seen so many people in the chat saying they're canceling their Daily Wire subscription, you know? Oh, apparently, Tim covered the trans woman seeking, well, that's cool that he mentioned. Did Breitbart say something too? You know, why aren't people covering the autistic sex ed stuff? Someone tell Tim to cover autistic sex ed. I don't mind the trans thing too. The trans thing is also like really that story is really disturbing. Actually, a woman basically, a trans woman posted a thread on Twitter about how they were going to take advantage of the Canadian assisted suicide program because they regret their transition so much. And I happened to see it as it was happening. I wrote an article about it for my Substack, which is carlin.substack.com. Anyway, I'll go check out that later. But man, I don't even know if I want to watch the rest of that Nick Rekieta video right now. There's no question left. There is no question about who is in the right here. Steven Crowder is right. The Daily Wire are shills. I don't blame the Blaze. I don't know. Steven made it pretty clear for people saying the Blaze in the chat. Like, I like the Blaze, generally speaking. And Steven said in his other video that he didn't think the Blaze had any, this wasn't the issue with the Blaze. It was only the issue with this one. But goddamn, now you know exactly what I said at the beginning of this stream. The fact that Jeremy Boeing did a hour-long video where he obfuscated Steven's point entirely. That shows you who the Daily Wire are. Man, good for Steven Crowder, man. I don't have anything else to say. I have nothing else to say. I don't feel like I need to watch the rest of that Nick Rekieta video, although I really was enjoying it. And that was a fun beginning to the stream. But the Daily Wire did him dirty. It is the Daily Wire's fault. Everyone should be if Candace Owens is on Timcast tonight, everyone should be super chatting in, trying to get Candace Owens to actually tell the fucking truth, which I highly doubt. Guys, by the way, if you haven't figured out that Candace Owens is a shill yet and a blatant grifter, I don't know what to tell you. Don't support Candace Owens. She is an awful human being. What are my thoughts on PragerU? Massive hypocrites that do not believe in individual liberties at all. Doing a PragerU video is one of the biggest regrets I have of my life. Of my entire life. Because I don't like hypocrisy. Hypocrisy to me there is nothing worse than when I have raging hypocrisy shoved in my face. I detest PragerU more than I detest the Daily Wire. And that says something. And I detest the Daily Wire quite a bit. And it really burns me because I do actually think that Dennis Prager does say good things. But again, you judge people through their actions. You don't judge them based on their words. You don't judge them based on the sweet nothings that they whisper in your ears. You judge them based on their actions. What are my thoughts on Peterson? I don't, guys, if you have questions in the chat about what I think of people, I'm feeling in a sassy mood tonight after Steven Crowder just made my entire fucking week. What are my thoughts on Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson has helped millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of young men. He was a voice that they needed when they didn't have anyone else speaking for them. I don't think that anything that Jordan Peterson is doing today should overshadow the good that Jordan Peterson has done in the world. With that being said, I think that he sold out epically when he joined the Daily Wire. I think that he's gotten extremely angry. I think that the whole thing with the barbiturates was like, I think that really, really changed him. And I think it's sad. I think it's tragic. I really, really do. Because I think that overall Jordan Peterson is like net positive, but I feel like he's sold out recently. And I don't like that. But I understand why he did it. Again, I understand the temptation of the money. And I never was anywhere close to making the money that these people are making, right? Like I could do pretty well, but like I wouldn't have gotten to that level. So I understand the temptation of the money. I really do. I understand why people sell out when they are later in life, because it's like you want to be able to coast at that point. You've worked hard. So I understand why he did what he did. Will I be listening to Jordan Peterson from here on forward? Nah. Not at all. Not at all. I like the Blaze. Generally, I like the Blaze. I think the Blaze does a good job. I really do. I like the people at the Blaze. I don't have any issue with them. Now, I don't always agree with what they say, and I don't always agree with the choices that they make, but like overall, I think that the Blaze does a really good job. Miss Mass Genocide says, I see Crowder's point. He is trying to guarantee the fight against big tech will continue long past him. He is trying to guarantee the fight against big tech will continue long past the now. Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's really admirable what he's doing. Oh, sorry, benzos. You're right. Man, how cool is that? So guys, I think that is where I'm going to end the stream for today, because I have to get ready for a workshop that I'm giving at 8 p.m. You can still sign up for it if you want. The link is pinned to the top of the chat on YouTube. I'm giving a workshop. It's a 2-part workshop. We're going to meet today, and we're going to meet next week for an hour. And this is about confidence building, showing up as your most confident self, whether or not you are in the workplace or in life, or you just want to do a YouTube channel or something like that. I will teach you how to be your most confident self. If you want to join me for that workshop, you can still sign up over on the website. That has all the information there. And if you don't get a chance to come tonight at 8 p.m., it will be available on demand afterwards. This is part of my Unwoke Your Work series, where I'm working on building all of my organizational trainings online so that you can have professional development resources that are completely unwoke. I am a fucking amazing workplace trainer. I'll tell you what. And so I have a whole series of workshops I'm going to be doing. We're doing the confidence building workshop. Today, we're going to be doing mastering your psychological style. Next month, we're going to be doing advanced psychology. After that, leadership. We're going to be talking about people management, mindful techniques for work and life, being your own best coach, escaping a toxic workplace, and my favorite presentation of all time, playing politics, the psychology of the human workplace. I'm going to be doing these all year long, one of them every single month. You can find out more information at activelyunwoke.com/work, where you can sign up for the workshops. And you can do them one at a time. You can do them as one big package. You can find out all the information there. I'm going to go I feel like I could run a mile. Does anyone else feel like they could run a mile? That confidence building workshop is going to be good tonight. I'll tell you that. All right, guys, I will be back tomorrow for happy hour at 5 p.m. I don't know what we're streaming yet, but I will tell you tomorrow. Keep an eye on the channel. Join us at 5 p.m. Grab your drink of choice and come watch a woke training or video with us. And then, of course, we have Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. on Saturdays, where we watch real socialism and we talk about it. And it's crazy. But guys, please mount that like button on your way out the door. AD says, I need those. My psych classes this semester are very woke. Well, come with me, AD. I will teach you the real psychology. Not any of that bullshit woke stuff. I'll teach you the real stuff. So sign up for the next month after that. Those are my 2 main psychology courses. Guys, mount that like button on the way out the door. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. And as always, make sure you sign up for my Substack. Apparently, Tim Pool covered it today. I didn't even know. So my Substack is carlin.substack.com. Make sure you sign up for free updates or a paid subscription there if you so choose. Guys, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.